What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Lazy Delicious. Today we're going to be making one of the most amazing sauces in the world, in my opinion. It's super versatile, and that is harissa. Now, harissa is a North African or Tunisian chili paste that's just out of this world. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's tangy, it's just amazing. You can throw it on pretty much any protein, just that, and it's going to be delicious. Vegetables, eggs, it's what makes shakshuka so delicious. And it's actually pretty hard to find in stores. And if you do find it, it's really lackluster. It's super one-dimensional, and honestly, it's not very good. And so I've always wanted to learn how to make it myself, and I'm going to be sharing my recipe with you guys today, and it's just amazing. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Here we have all the ingredients we'll need to make harissa. And so kicking it off, we got 7 guajillo chilies right here. Guajillos have this awesome, spicy, smoky fruitiness to them that just adds so much flavor. You can substitute with New Mexico chilies if you can't find guajillos, but they're gonna be much less powerful. And then here we have 2 chiles de árbol. These are where a majority of the spice is coming from, and so warning to those that can't handle spice, the base recipe here is pretty spicy. If you want it to be milder, just omit the chiles de árbol. And then here we have 2 red bell peppers, and we're going to be roasting these up and get them nice and caramelized, and this is where that sweetness of the harissa comes from. And now onto our spice mix. Here, these are our whole spices here, and we have 1 teaspoon of caraway seeds. We have 2 cloves, 2 teaspoons of coriander seeds, and then 1 teaspoon of white peppercorns. And then right above that, you'll see the 3 cardamom pods there. And so here with the cardamom pods, you're gonna wanna crack those pods open and just rip out the little seeds that are on the inside. This is where all the flavor of the cardamom pods come from. And additionally, the shells really do not grind well. And so you'll end up with these thick pieces of the cardamom pod shell left in your harissa. Now onto our ground spices over here. Here we have 2 teaspoons of cumin and 1 teaspoon of paprika. I like to use Hungarian paprika because I think it has the best flavor, but you can really use any kind of paprika you want. And for the cumin, if you have cumin seeds, you can go ahead and do 2 teaspoons of cumin seeds with the whole spice mix. I didn't have whole cumin seeds on hand, so I just went with ground cumin. Next, we have 2 cloves of garlic infusing in about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now wrapping up the ingredients, we have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And these just bring acidity to the harissa, and that's really it. And so let's go ahead and start putting the harissa together. Let's start by prepping our bell peppers since they'll take the most time to cook. Stand them upright and just run your knife down the side to get nice even slices. You should get about 3 or 4 slices from each pepper. Now once your bell peppers are sliced up, we're going to go ahead and transfer them to a foil lined sheet tray here and just make sure they're in just one even layer. Then we're going to drizzle over some extra virgin olive oil. And we're going to go ahead and rub in that olive oil to make sure every pepper is totally coated in the oil. This will just help them roast a bit better and evenly. Once they're coated in the oil, go ahead and pop them in an oven that's been set to 450 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. Now that our bell peppers are roasting, we'll go ahead and get our chilies ready. Now for the harissa, we'll need to reconstitute these chilies, and what that really just means is just hydrate them in some really hot water. Cut the stems off of each chili, and then you can just open up the sides. You can either tear it or you can use a knife like I did here, and we want to make sure we get rid of all the seeds. We want the harissa to be a smooth paste in the end, and these seeds are just going to make it kind of chunky. Once you've destemmed and de-seeded the chilies, throw them into a heat-proof bowl. And it needs to be heat-proof because the next step is to pour some almost boiling water over it. I like to use a tea kettle just because it heats up water really quickly. And we're just gonna leave the chilies in this hot water for about 20 minutes. I also like to just put a paper towel on top. This just makes sure that the hot water is touching every pepper because they will float to the surface. Now let's toast up our whole spices, and this is why I like to use whole spices, is because toasting them just really amplifies the flavor and gives the harissa a little more oomph. So in a small pan that's been set to low heat, go ahead and toss in your whole spices and just give them a little jostle around to make sure they're evenly spaced out. And they'll sit here for about 4 to 5 minutes, and you'll know they're done once the scent starts hitting your nose. So once you start smelling those spices, kill the heat, and then you're gonna wanna transfer those whole spices into a mortar or pestle. You can also use a spice grinder, but I like to use a mortar pestle because it's just nice to take out any pent up anger on some unassuming spices. Now once your spices are nice and ground up, add in the rest of your ground spices and just mix it up with your pestle.
Ooh, now after you mix together your spices, you gotta go in for a sniff. It just smells like heaven, man. Oh my God. This is gonna be really good.
Now in a small bowl, go ahead and add in your tomato paste and then follow it up with your lemon juice and just stir those together until they're combined. I like mixing all these things together before making the harissa. I just find it emulsifies a little bit better in the end. Now go ahead and toss in your spice mix and just mix to combine until you have a really fragrant paste. Now it's time to bring everything together and make our harissa. In a food processor, you're going to transfer your chilies over that have been soaking. They should be fully rehydrated and a lot more tender now. Just drain them with a spider and then squeeze out all the excess water you can. That water is just going to really thin out the harissa and it should be pretty thick. Now I like to use a food processor for this just because the ingredients don't sputter up onto the sides as much, but you can also use a blender. Just make sure the blender can handle hot ingredients if everything's still hot, and you'll probably need to scrape down the sides. Now go ahead and toss in your roasted bell peppers in there. You can peel the skins off the bell peppers if you want to, but I like to just leave them on. It adds a nice little char flavor to the harissa. Now take your infused oil and you're just going to strain out that garlic. If you want it to be really garlicky, you can also just toss the garlic in with it, but I like it a little less garlicky. Now close your food processor and just go ahead and let it run, and it should emulsify nicely with that olive oil and you should get a really thick paste. Next up, let's go ahead and take our tomato paste, lemon, and spice mix, and we're just gonna scrape that out of the bowl and toss it in the food processor. Make sure you get every last bit of that. I know I've said that a lot. I don't like wasting flavor. Top the lid on and go ahead and run your food processor a few more times. And at this point, you can add a little extra olive oil if you'd like to. It just helps everything emulsify, but you don't really need to if you want to keep it a little less fatty. And after just a few seconds, 10-15 seconds, you should have this beautiful paste, and that is your harissa right there. And it should be hitting your nose. You can already smell how good it's going to be. Now grab a mason jar and start spooning your harissa in. If you don't have a mason jar, you can use any kind of airtight container really. Just don't use anything plastic because of the acidity from the lemon and the tomato paste. It's not safe, and so just make sure it's airtight and it's not plastic. And just look at that beautiful harissa. Now before you go ahead and seal it up, you're going to want to put a little bit of a layer of olive oil on top. This will just keep it fresher for longer. It acts as a bit of a protective layer. And now seal it up, and it should stay in the fridge for about 2 to 3 weeks.
And there you have it. That's how you make your homemade harissa. Again, this stuff can go on anything. And so we already packaged this bad boy up here. And we still have a little bit of harissa left over. You always got to do a little taste test. It's just so good. You got that sweetness from the bell pepper, the smokiness of the guajillo, that spice of that árbol, and then just all that flavor from that spice mix that we added, and it's just incredible. And so Before I wrap up this video, we are going to go ahead and go over just a quick and easy breakfast that you can make with harissa. Just harissa fried eggs on avocado toast. They're so good, and so let's dive into that before we wrap this up.
Get some butter melted in a pan set to medium, and then grab your harissa and just put a nice spoonful right in the middle of the pan there and start to spread it around a little bit. Then you're going to take a spatula and just make sure you are spreading that harissa around the pan and mixing it in with the butter. And you should, I got it. It smells amazing when you do this. Just really try to get it as spread out in the pan as you can, because we're going to crack the eggs right over it. Now go ahead and take your eggs, and like I said, just crack your eggs right on top of that harissa. The egg should spread out and get nice and coated with the harissa on the bottom. Now the way I like to cook my fried eggs is once the whites are a little solidified at the bottom, you'll just go ahead, add a little bit of salt, and then you'll toss a lid on top of the eggs and crank the heat down a little bit. This is just going to steam your eggs, and you get the most perfect yolks when you do this way. You're going to let the eggs cook until the whites around the yolks have solidified, and when you cook this way, there's none of that gross runny egg white on top of the eggs that you can sometimes get when you do sunny side up eggs. Oh man, that harissa is just baked into the eggs. You can see how jiggly the yolks are. I'm getting hungry. Let's go ahead and plate this up.
Beautiful toast with avocado smashed on it. You don't need me to tell you how to do that. I'm just gonna go ahead, take our beautiful fried eggs, and just give them a little scooch onto that toast. If you want, you can pick them up, but just look at all that beautiful harissa on there. You gotta pick up your little pieces here, but come on, how good does that look? And there you have it, our gorgeous harissa fried eggs on avocado toast. This is my wife's favorite breakfast for a reason. It's so good, and I'm not gonna leave you guys without me taking a bite. Just take a roll here. Perfect deal. Don't mean to brag. Oh my god. It's so simple. It's so good. It's just a killer breakfast. And that is not even remotely breaking the surface of what you can make with harissa. I'm gonna have a lot more videos including harissa in the future, guys, so stay tuned on those. It's one of my favorite things to cook with. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And as always, stay lazy.